Hey, this is Rob, and you're listening to the Hidden Destination podcast. All right, today is August 30th, 2024, and I'll be recapping yesterday's what I can only describe as torturous ride. Yesterday I rode from Crow Wing State Park. Camped there last night. It was a really awesome campsite. It was right on the Mississippi River, pretty quiet, pretty decent facilities, and a good price point. And rode to back to Bowlus, which actually completes what I'm calling the Northern Tier Loop. So I posted on Instagram just what that loop looked like, but it feels definitely like a bit of an accomplishment being back in Bowlus this morning. Yesterday's ride I was expecting to be pretty easy. It was pretty much a straight shot into Bowlus, only 40 miles. I had 120 miles to tackle over 3 days in order to get into St. Cloud by this afternoon. And so I just broke it up into 40 days, and I was like, 40 miles, it's easy. And yesterday I left Crow Wing, and I woke up and felt a little wonky. I had like this weird dull headache and just felt like kind of oogy and congested. And I'm pretty sure that was due to my sinuses with the front that was coming through, just due to the weather shifting, because I hit the craziest headwind I've hit this entire tour. It probably would have been a worse headwind had I been going the other direction when I rode into Fargo. It was just, it felt like it was just constantly 25 to 30 miles an hour, just blowing in my face. And typically, when you're riding, depending on where you're riding, you can get a little respite from trees or, neighborhoods. But I was also on the 371, which is a really busy highway. It was a 65 mile an hour highway. It had a decent shoulder. Well, I wouldn't even say that. It had a big enough shoulder where I felt like protected enough, but there was still like gravel and debris and like pieces and parts of electronics scattered everywhere. So it was very unpleasant. And the fact that it was open highway meant that I was fully exposed to the wind. So it was just beat down wind for over 20 miles. And then just constant traffic passing you and dodging like pieces of computers on the side of the road. So that really sucked. And then I had a headache sort of the whole time and didn't feel 100%. So yesterday starting out the ride was pretty miserable. But just kind of put my head down and just slogged it. And I knew eventually that I'd be getting off the 371 and making my way into Little Falls, which I was hoping as soon as I got off the highway and past Fort Ripley, then I would get out of the headwind. And sure enough, I went through it was like a military camp. It was quite interesting. Fort Ripley seems to be a military camp. And I was still heading in the southbound direction, which meant into the wind, but it was a bit more of a crosswind at that point, and the street was lined with trees. It was a lot more scenic, a lot quieter, and I was somewhat protected. So I get into Little Falls, which is a cute little town, and I hit up the Casey's. I don't know if I think I've talked about Casey's, but Casey's has a couple great things going for them. Casey's has 2 for $4 Liquid Death discounts, which is pretty good. I was buying a ton of their beef jerky, which they had 2 for $9.50, until I realized how much sugar was packed in the beef jerky. That's why it tasted so good. So I stopped buying that. But Casey's has an amazing selection of free condiments, and when you're doing either Dollar General meals or eating on a budget but trying to still eat somewhat healthy, Casey's has all the staples you need. They have Parmesan cheese packets, crushed red pepper packets, mustard without nonsense in it, and pepper. So typically my MO is to go and buy an inexpensive drink and take one of their bags next to the pizza station and load up with condiments. And then I do tell them that I'm doing that, so I'm not stealing, but I said, and then I take a ton of napkins as well. So Casey's has been just awesome. I want to get a Casey's shirt at some point and a Dollar General shirt. So I make it into Little Falls and pillage the Casey's for all their Parmesan cheese, and I set up at a shelter at a park next to the Dollar General because I'm planning on going to the Dollar General to grab a couple items prior to getting into Bowlus. And I'm like, oh man, I knew there was a storm coming in, you could just tell, but I look up in the sky and I'm like, ooh, that looks pretty bad. And then I hear some thunder, and I pull up my radar on my phone, and there's all these severe thunderstorm warnings, and there is a gnarly band of storms coming through, which explains the headwind that I hit. That was the front coming through, because you could feel the air cooling down, and it started sprinkling a little bit, and there's this kid on a BMX bike kind of like tooling around the park looking at me while I was eating like fish and vegetables at the table in the pavilion. I think he was wondering what I was up to, but he was cruising around a bit and was also kind of keeping an eye on the storm. He was like this little fat blonde kid. He was cute. And then all of a sudden, the wind, so I had like all my gear and stuff, like food and napkins and whatever else on the table. And then all of a sudden, the wind picked up and just blew everything off the table. And it started pouring. And so I'm like, oh, no. So I get up, and first of all, I like secure my bike because my bike was going to get blown over. And then I, like, all of my stuff, my Jetboil, like all of my condiment packets, everything just gets blown across the park. My money pouch, my fanny pack, my phone, like everything. And so I'm like, it's pouring rain, and I'm chasing everything across the park, trying to make sure that all the valuable items, I'm trying to do like a quick inventory on value, like, okay, get my wallet first, phone, like secure all the things that I can't go without. The mustard packets can go to hell. And pick up everything, and I'm soaked, and and then that kid that I was talking about earlier rolls in, and he's soaked as well, and it was quite the episode. So, and then it was really nice because I'd spoken with Jordy at Trailside earlier the following day just to inquire about accommodation. And she had given two options for accommodation because Jordy's Trailside Cafe in Bowlus, which is just like, I'll talk more about that in a second, but it's just this like idyllic little cafe. And I had spoken with her earlier on the phone about accommodation because the adventure cycling app has her listed as a campground and an option for camping. But she's associated with the city park, which is across the street. There's like an old train depot across the street. This is on the Soul Line Trail. And so I called and inquired about everything, and she had said, well, we have two options. You can either camp in the city park across the street, or we also offer for cyclists, there's a bunkhouse across the street that we let cyclists stay in for like a super discounted rate, but you have to be cycling. You like have to be on a bike tour. She says it's got like kitchen, everything you need. And so I am such a sucker for bunkhouses and I guess just like alternative accommodations for cyclists, like things that are open for cyclists. Like anybody can camp in the park. That's nothing. And so I was like, all right, I'm definitely, put me in for the bunkhouse. That sounds sick. And long story short, I'm glad I did because when I got to Bowlus that evening, the park was like flooded from all the rain, and it was like gross out still. So it was actually really nice out, but like the storm had definitely done its fair share on the park. So, but yeah, backing up, the storm finally clears. The entire town loses power, so I'm not able to go to Dollar General. Very disappointed. They were closed, and it gets like really nice out. And so the following, obviously the storm passing through kills the headwind, and it then became Zin Zin Zelabin time, which was perfect because I had 11 miles left, and then a lot of that was going to be scenic road with the sun out, kind of setting. Rolling hills along the Mississippi, and then transitioning to the Soul Line Trail. And it was great. It was a great way to end the loop. And so I get to Jordy's cafe and speak with Jordy's daughter. And it is just the cutest, idyllic like most idyllic cafe that I can imagine. It's got all of this cycling paraphernalia everywhere. It's just I'm sitting in the back right now at this like Zen garden with a little not pavilion, but like a little shelter with all of this cycling stuff. Your classic ride on and life is a journey with a bicycle and that sort of thing. A lot of Bowlus related decorations, a lot of religious art, and yeah, it's a really, really cute cafe. So I speak with, I believe it's Sonia, who's Jordy's daughter, and she takes me over to the bunkhouse, which is across the street, and it's this old bank that they converted, and it's quite a sizable space. And it was virtually did not cost me anything. And it was so cool. It was such a unique little space, and it had everything you needed. Really nice shower, like everything. It was great. And so I'm like super stoked that I opted in for that, which allows me to get an earlier start to get down to St. Cloud a bit quicker. So yeah, so that was that. I'm gonna be taking a bit of a break after today from riding. Maybe do a podcast with special guest Claire Rupp. We'll see. And still need to figure out what's next after this, in terms of the journey. So we'll see. But I will update the podcast when I know what the next steps are, and hopefully we'll have a special guest next time and on the podcast. So yeah, from Bowlus, Minnesota. Until next time, ta-ta.